This is Dave Fleming, Senior Leader at Aldea Spiritual Community. Welcome to week 4 of our current series, Calm, Finding Stillness Wherever You Are. In this series, we've looked at the anatomy of calm and the opposite of it. We've looked at why nature is such a powerful calming effect because we sprung from nature. We are part of nature. We considered calm at work and why it's so easy to lose and how we can regain it again. And today, we're concluding this by talking again about the body and about the importance of the body in relation to calm and in relation to living well, a deeply wise spiritual life. Our guest today is Susan Weber. Susan grew up in northern Michigan. She was enjoying a fruitful career in social work when she heard a calling to move into body work for herself that eventually became her life work. We talk in the conversation about her story and her journey and how it brought her to this place of understanding her vocation and how she expresses that in the world. We talked about body work. We talked about how we hold tension in our body and the damaging effects that can have. We talked about taking care of our bodies, how that's a deeply spiritual practice in and of itself. Susan walked me through, and you can practice as well, some body work. And we ended with a meditation and a prayer that I think will be something you can use as a mantra in your own life. Today, as you listen to the conversation, there's both a main podcast, a main conversation as you watch and listen. And then there's an aftercast where we continue the conversation. I think you're going to want to watch the aftercast because we continue to talk about important elements of body work. And then there's a meditation that Susan guided us through that you can also use. It's a separate video, and you can use it today and beyond today to bring yourself to a place of calm in your body and in your mind, in your awareness. If you're new to us, there's also on the page where you're watching this video, there's also a reflective guide. You can download the guide. It's usually 4 or 5 pages long, and it provides you on-ramps into reflection or discussion. Why not grab a few friends, watch this together, or watch it separately and then come together and talk about, use the reflective guide and talk about issues related to living a wise life and a calm life through the body. As always, we're grateful for those of you who are part of our community. We exist because of your gracious giving. If you want to donate to Aldea, you can at our website, loveperiod.org. loveperiod.org. We're excited that you're here. We're excited you're watching. And it's my pleasure to bring you Susan Weber. Susan, thank you so much for being here with us today. Where are you in the world today?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm in northern Michigan, where I don't live anymore, even though I grew up here. But I'm helping my 92-year-old mother be back at home again out of assisted living and enjoying the beauty and the green and lakes here. And I have a lot of friends here still, so it's a bit of a vacation as well.
Yeah, now you grew up in northern Michigan, yes?
I did. I was here until my mid-30s. My degree was in social work, and I did that for many years here. And then I was actually called to the Southwest to study massage, and that's what led me to the desert and the high desert, first in New Mexico, and now I'm in Tucson, so the true desert, as they say.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I want to get into that a little bit because I think it's always interesting to hear about a person's story and how the different places where the story takes a person and how that converges with what they end up being passionate about, really even how they spend their vocation, what they do with their life. So you were in northern Michigan. You grew up in northern Michigan. If I'm understanding correctly, you were a social worker.
I was.
And so what was that work like? What did you do?
Well, I did a few different jobs. I worked at a crisis center, so we got all sorts of calls from drug overdoses to a lot of referrals to other agencies. I worked with a team of people, and it was exciting. It was a good first job out of school. I got a variety of experiences with that, with people. And then I worked at the Murchie House, which was a group of girls who were put there by the court system. They were minor offenses, not anything serious, but it was quite a circus at times. With, you can imagine, 12 girls living in a big house. And in fact, I had a reunion with some of my coworkers.
Oh, wow.
So we reminisced a lot about all the challenges and the fun and the downside of that work and that place. That was 2 years, and then I went with community mental health, and I was a caseworker for developmentally disabled adults. So Traverse City had a big mental hospital here. And in the 60s, I think it was Kennedy that deinstitutionalized a lot of people,
Mm.
wanted to get them into the community. So we had a lot of programs at that time for people that were placed in the community that were in the state hospital, mental hospital. So, and there was more money then, I think, for mental health. So I had a pretty good job with community mental health for 6 years. And then I took a basic massage course at NMC, the little local junior college here in Traverse City. And I really got inspired to do body work and to study that. And so that's what drew me to research massage schools. And at that time, that was the mid 80s. There weren't as many schools, and there wasn't
Yeah.
as much, it wasn't so mainstream massage.
Right.
So it was, when I told my parents I was going to be a massage therapist, they were sort of looked at me sort of strange, like, what? You're gonna do what?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So what was it about, you think, as you look back and you think about, I mean, I like to do this in my own life where I see the shifts of my life, my career. What was happening for you that you think moved you from doing the social work you were doing? You were successful, you'd been able to move into different elements of that work. You take this course. What happens to you that you think was so compelling that it shifted the whole direction of your work?
Hmm. Um, that's a hard question to answer. I think there a lot of it was on an unconscious level because I think as a social worker, I wanted to help other people, but I also needed to help myself.
Mm,
And I think by getting into body work, it was transformative for me personally. And I had no idea that it would do that. I just thought, oh, it's another way to give. And I just felt drawn to work with my hands. And after taking that basic course and working on friends and family, um, I was just drawn to do it more. And I realized there was so many avenues to study in the
mm,
terms of body work. There's so many kinds of body work. And I just was really drawn to do it. And I was burning out on social work. It was becoming more and more paperwork intensive and not as much time with the clients. And I sort of saw the writing on the wall with what
mhm.
was happening, and it didn't excite me anymore. I didn't want to stay, even though there was security with that job, um, with money and pensions and long-term employment. I've never been, I knew that I needed something different for myself. And so I researched all the schools, and I actually had a dream about the Southwest, and
Mm,
that's what helped me decide. I saw in my dream the sunsets out there because I had traveled there in my early 20s, and I saw these adobe buildings, and it was really pretty emotional because I felt
interesting.
like, I'm drawn to go to the Southwest. And so I researched the schools there, and I ended up in Santa Fe, the New Mexico Academy of Healing Arts. And it was just the perfect place for me to study. I did a 1,000-hour program, and I didn't realize how transformative it would be for me personally on a emotional and physical level because um, it just had some traumas in my body, and with touch, healing touch, it really accesses some of the tension that we carry in our bodies that's not just physical, but also emotional. So it was.
So I want to, obviously, I want to explore that whole idea you just said there.
Mhm.
Um, Before we do that, so let me just make sure I've got the story here. You're in Northern Michigan. You're in a successful career. You feel sort of compelled to this idea of massage therapy.
Mhm.
You take a course. You tell your parents, hey, I'm making a shift. And at some point, you must have also said, I'm going to the Southwest, which is also slightly different terrain than Northern Michigan. Uh,
Right.
so, I mean, this is really uh, a pretty radical departure from your life, from the life you knew.
It was. It
Did
was.
you see that as an exciting adventure, or was there fear involved, or were you just so sure that, you just needed to go?
I it was almost like that dream just spurred me on because I sold my house here, which I kind of regret. I'd probably make a ton of money right now because Traverse is such a hot spot.
Yeah.
But I sold my house and I pared down my belongings and I loaded up my little Toyota truck with a camper on the back and I just headed west. And I wasn't that scared. I actually piggy backed with a friend of mine who was also making a career change. She was heading to San Francisco to study culinary, and so we followed each other out west, and we both made these life changes. She had been a hairdresser, so I had a friend to
Mm,
like an ally to take with me on the journey. So, she helped me land in Santa Fe, and then she continued on to San Francisco. But no, I was very excited, and the
yeah.
school sounded exciting to me, and I guess I was just really ready. When you're ready for a change, it seems like the door is open, and there really wasn't a lot of fear. Everything just fell into place, a place to live, and I had camaraderie in school, and I was learning something so exciting. And yeah, it was a really magical time, actually.
Yeah. Now, Susan, um, had you been involved in body work on your own personally? Like, had you done yoga as growing up or in your work? Or was this really something that you
Um,
discovered at that moment?
well, I've always been very physical with sports and being raised on a farm, is a very physical activity. You're always doing stuff, you're working hard.
Yes.
And the woods, playing in the woods, and I've always been physical. I played sports. I was pretty successful as a jock and cheerleader, and I would do 10Ks in my 20s and 30s, and I've always been physical. And I guess with yoga, I dabbled in it for a long time. In fact, even at the college at NMC, the local college in Traverse. There was a phys ed yoga class, and that was pretty revolutionary back then too.
Mm,
Talking about the 70s. So,
yeah.
um, I was introduced to that, but it didn't really stick until I actually traveled to Thailand in the late 90s, and I took a Thai massage course there because I kept adding to my skills as a massage therapist. And I was getting pretty stressed out doing massage because I worked at a high-end spa. Many people know about 10,000 Waves in San
Mm,
Jose. And my body there was a lot of wear and tear on my body. So I took a vacation to Thailand, and I actually was drawn to Thai massage after getting one. And I took a course, a 10-day course, and we did yoga every day in the morning. And when I came home, I felt like I was tuned up in a way that
mm,
I needed to be. And I thought, I need to continue doing yoga.
mm.
So I kept doing yoga, pretty disciplined with the routine that we were given. And then I ran into a friend who was offering a teacher training. And again, it was sort of a light went off, and I just said, sign me up. And I want to be a teacher. And so I had been doing it a few years, which I think is advantageous, rather than just deciding to do it and not having that background. So I took the teacher training, which I've continued to add to my knowledge. And then I started teaching. I was living in northern New Mexico at that time. I had bought a house outside of Santa Fe, and I had a little studio I rented. And then I also started the massage program at Ghost Ranch, which is a retreat center in northern New Mexico. And I asked them if I could start teaching yoga. And again, it was a little outside of their box because they're owned by the Presbyterian Church. And they weren't quite sure that yoga,
Sure, right.
with their philosophy and their their bottom line. So I had to convince them, that the body is the temple, and if we don't take care of ourselves, how can we take care of others? So
Mm,
I think because they knew me from starting the massage program there, they accepted that I would do it in a manner that would be okay with their participants, their guests. So
yeah.
it was added. The yoga was added after I had been doing massage and realized I needed the discipline to keep me going, because a lot
Mm,
of massage therapists burn out after a few years
mm,
if they're doing it seriously and full time, which I was. So while it was a good income, it was also very taxing on my body. But getting back to the body mind aspect
yes.
of massage, I had a lot of injuries in my body. In fact, I couldn't even turn my neck very far when I came to massage school. And so I realized I was holding a lot of physical and some emotional trauma in my neck from some abuse. And so when I started getting, certain types of body work, a lot of emotion came out and a lot of memories. We hold memories in our body. I think Nick mentioned that there's as one of my teachers said, there's issues in the tissues.
Oh, wow. Oh, how wonderful. What a way to say it.
Yeah, and it really does explain it pretty well in that little saying. But so a lot of stuff came out for me, a lot of emotion, and it wasn't always easy, to relive some of those memories, and so, but it really freed me up. It freed me up physically and emotionally, and so it really added to my calmness, because
Yeah.
I think when we carry around a lot of grief and a lot of trauma, be it from physical or emotional, mental trauma, that it takes a toll on us, and you can see it in people's bodies as they age. I think if there's a lot of stored up tension in the body, it really starts to come out as we age, I feel.
Yeah. So let's really slow that part down.
Okay.
Issues in the tissues. Okay. Okay. So over your work and your experience for yourself as well as with other people, how do you think that happens when we hold things? uh, we can't necessarily go back and undo certain things that maybe got, I mean, we can undo perhaps the tension of what's being held in the body. But I'm also interested in, and let's start here before we talk about how to undo,
Hmm.
what might I be doing today that could perpetuate issues in my body that are really coming from um, the way I'm sort of metabolizing life as it's coming at me, whether it's a difficult conversation or a difficult season of life or an argument or something, or some chronic stress. Is there a way to know I'm doing that, Susan, from your work?
Well, yeah, I think it shows up when people can't sleep at night. I think it shows up when they're just highly reactive, maybe.
Mm,
I think you talked about that with in the workplace. When
mm,
people are, if they don't know how to reflect a little bit, a lot of
mhm,
anger comes out. And I think for me, that was, the way I would respond. I would have maybe a short fuse, so to speak.
mm,
Yeah, just being impatient with yourself and other people. I think when we're not at peace, or there's not a calmness in your being, it comes out in different ways. I think it comes out in the way we react to things. Maybe something will trigger you. There'll be some response at work or a coworker that'll almost trigger a memory of maybe your family of origin, you know.
Sure.
I think it's a lot of unconscious stuff that makes us be reactive. But then we also probably have tension around that, you know.
In our body.
Yeah, for me, it was my neck and shoulders,
Yeah,
and
me
so
too.
stiff, really stiff from a lot of whiplashes from being crazy and wild in my 20s. And then, some physical stuff, physical abuse. So, I think it's just, it's being aware of it, is the first step, and how we become aware of it. For me, it was through body work and through yoga. There's even yoga therapy where you can do a practice with people that are, proficient in that. I'm not a yoga therapist myself, but even doing certain postures will enhance that tension in your body and help it to release. And it doesn't always have to be maybe on a conscious level that you remember, but just to be aware that you're holding tension in certain parts of your body, and then, finding ways to work it out,
So Susan, maybe we could try something right now. Let's say I came to you and I said, I'm wondering if I'm holding tension in my body or where. What would you do? Like, could you walk us through how you would help me even identify that?
Well, I would look at maybe how you were doing a certain posture in yoga, and where you're holding tension that would not allow you to do it. And I'm not talking about, a real extreme like pretzel pose, but even just I can tell by even people's posture sometimes, how they walk, or how they're doing a certain posture where there's tension, and then I might ask a few leading questions like, did you have an injury to this area? Uh,
Huh.
Seems like it's hard for you to open up your shoulder when you do a certain posture, or your hips or something. And then I would maybe just do an adjustment with you with it, and a prop.
While in the pose?
Yeah, and use a prop, and then just have them breathe into it. I like to do I do vinyasa flow, which is a more flowing kind of yoga, but I also do slow yoga where you hold the poses longer, like yin yoga, and that way that the tissue in the body can release more slowly, and you can become more aware of what's going on, and the tension can be released much much better than if you're hurrying and doing fast yoga or power
Mm,
yoga or something that's more extreme. Not that I'm against that, but we need different things at different times, and I think I would just have you breathe into it. And like I said, I'm not a yoga therapist, but a yoga therapist might even have you stay in that for minutes at a time and just have you breathe and see if anything comes up.
yeah.
And even in body work, I've done that with people when they say, there's a lot of tension in my stomach. And, I might hold that area and just have them breathe into it and ask them a few questions, a few leading questions about, well, what's the quality of the tension? If you had a word to put on it, what would it be? And what color would it be?
Mm,
And when you start exploring the body in this way, a lot of times it'll give you feedback. The body, I think the body wants to respond. And if you give it a little bit of support in the right direction, in the right um, therapy, so to speak, that it will give you feedback about what you need. And if you're willing to go there and release it, sometimes we want to hold on to things, we're
yeah.
not willing to let go because maybe it serves us in some way, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what about what's your feeling about, or do you do body scanning? So, just on a regular basis, um, should I be just sort of stopping during the day and checking in with my body? What do you think of that? Or
Yeah, I think a lot of people aren't aware of where they're holding tension. They might sit for 8 hours and they wonder why their back is sore, without getting up and walking around or looking out the window. I tell people, don't, even my mom, my 92-year-old mom will sit and do puzzles too long and then her back hurts. or it'll activate her sciatica, and I'll say, Mom, you can't sit for that long. You've got,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But I think just having body awareness, like tuning into, where is do you have tension today, or why is my back a little tight? And then you can do something for it. You can get down on the floor and do a couple cat cows, or I even teach chair yoga or office yoga where people
Yeah.
can do a
Huh.
right at their chair.
Okay, so can you show me something right here, and maybe people watching this can also do it. So I've got some tension, Susan, right here. And this is one of the places, my wife always reminds me, I hold my tension in my upper neck and down my shoulders,
Okay.
right? Very weak here.
Uh-huh.
I once hurt my pec in relaxation yoga. I mean, that tells you where I'm at. Okay.
You
But
laugh.
if I were really trying to do something in a moment to release tension somewhere in my body, let's just start here. What would you have me do?
Well, I'd probably have you sit up straight, maybe come forward a little bit, and just start to do a few shoulder rolls. Take a few deep breaths, and just as you exhale, roll the shoulders back and down. Pull them up towards your ears, and then exhale, release it down. Inhale, come up, exhale, release. Inhale, come up, exhale, release. One more. Inhale, up, exhale, release. Even something as simple as pulling them up to your shoulders, take a deep breath, and then exhale through your mouth, like,
Yeah.
yeah. Big inhale, exhale. Yeah, and then, if your neck is also an issue, I'd probably have you do some neck rolls and, take a breath and exhale your head to one side. Inhale back to the center, exhale to the other side. And, continue that for a
Hmm.
couple of rounds. And, you can drop it forward and hold it for a breath or two. Really, really stretch the back of the neck. Take a couple deep breaths, and then inhale up, and then exhale. Maybe look up, but, be mindful how far back you should go with your neck, and then exhale. And then maybe do a few circles with your neck. Just make some nice, easy circles. Again, nothing too extreme if you have any neck injuries. Just very slow circles with your neck. And then another good one is to just take your arms behind your chair, like a back bend, if your chair isn't too high, and just let the chair kind of pull your shoulders back.
Mm,
Are you doing that?
I am.
Yeah. Doesn't that feel good?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And, you can sit back and think about something at work that you need to, or not, don't think about anything, but just
Right.
in this position, you can just
Mm.
still think about what you're focusing on. And yeah, so those are just a couple easy things you can do, in your chair.
Hey, that I feel better. Maybe people watching, give that a try.
Yeah.
Rewind the recording and just listen to Susan walk you through that. Um,
It doesn't have to be a lot. I tell people 5-10 minutes can really change the energy in your body.
I'm starting to see how, if there is something distressing, not even a major distress, but just something that raises stress during the day, that could then be held in my body, how powerful it can be just to do what you just did right at the moment
Mm-hmm.
of the distress.
Yes.
And I wonder, in your own learnings and just in your own experience and work with people, is there a way to catch the issue in the tissue soon after the issue and maybe release it, maybe almost in real time, so it doesn't stay there? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, if you're talking about just something, maybe a hard conversation with a coworker or a family member, Yeah, just something as simple as doing some deep breathing, or going for a walk, even a short walk to change your energy.
Mm,
Um, Doing a few, for me, a lot of times, if I'm pretty stressed, I'll just get on my yoga mat and I'll start doing some yoga, or I'll get online and find a class that I can be led in myself if I don't want to go to a class. But because there's so much online now, which is awesome. And a lot of times it just shifts my energy if I do something physical. Be it, yoga, go for a walk, dance, put on some music. For me, really doing anything body centered really shifts my energy and makes such a difference. And that's just, I don't know if that's true for everyone, but even, in Tucson, we have great dance venues where we dance outside,
mm,
in like a meditation where you don't talk, you just dance. And
mm.
I partake in something like that a couple times a week when I'm there. And just moving my body helps me to come into my center and helps me to be a more balanced person.
I think I know in my growing up there was this split that occurred
Mm,
between things that are spiritual and things that are quote of the body.
yes.
And I think somehow pulling that together
Mhm.
into something united, that the body is a deep part of my spirituality, not a separate element away from it. It sounds like this is, I mean, would you say that your body is sort of a primary vehicle for you of spirituality?
I would say so. I think I wasn't raised well, I think a lot of religion, especially very traditional religions, do try to separate it, that it's
Mhm.
almost narcissistic or self-centered to take care of your body, or
Sure.
too much energy into your body. And of course, we live in a culture that focuses so much on the physical. So, you know, again, there's got to be that balance. I think there's nothing wrong with trying to look your best. And yoga and anything physical will help shape your body and form you in different ways. But the outcome is also just to feel better, to feel more yourself, to get more in touch with yourself, and ultimately to feel calmer and more relaxed and more at ease in your body. A lot of people are not at ease in their bodies, even if maybe even if they look good, there's some disconnect.
Can we talk about that a minute? So,
Yeah.
because I think I've been like that, and I'm not sure if it wasn't, just a few years ago where I really started to realize, and my wife has really helped me with this to appreciate
Hmm.
my disconnection maybe to my body. Um, so, how might someone go about trying to discern a disconnection to their body, or where they might be disconnected to their body? Is it really just in taking up a practice, or what would you offer as guidance to even try to realize whether or not I am disconnected from my body?
Well, I think if you have an addiction, if you obsess a lot, if you, again, if you can't sleep at night, or if you are always negative on yourself, saying negative things about
Mm,
yourself, or you're critical of other people, even. I think those are all feedback systems for us,
mhm,
that there needs to be some introspection or some realization that there's a disconnect because you're not being mindful about what you're doing to your body, be it what you're putting in it, or not finding time to exercise, taking a lot of drugs or
mm,
alcohol,
mm,
sleep, or whatever. I think if you just are really out of denial, like truthful with yourself, what am I doing, that is maybe not so kind to myself? And I think, again, we live in a culture that there's a lot of denial, I think, and there's um, a lot of pressure to look a certain way and to be a certain way, and people, I think, unless you find a connection, a deeper connection to yourself in a spiritual sense, then I think you can get lost, you know. And I think aging is when people the way people age, I think, has a lot to do with how much they've come to realize, you know, that to know themselves in a way that you can be compassionate and kind to yourself, and you have a lifestyle that promotes that, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just not always easy for people. I realize that. For me, I don't have an addiction problem, and I'm grateful for that, you know. But a lot of people do. You know, there's a lot of addiction in our culture. I mean, look at the our culture is so overweight. You know, they
Mm.
say, I heard some statistic in another 10 years, like 60% of people will be overweight in our culture, or maybe it's sooner than that. But you know, that's yeah. There should be an acceptance to an extent, but you know, there should also be some looking at the denial of that, you know,
Sure.
like
Sure.
why are people having to overeat, you know?
Sure. Yeah, no doubt. And what is it that, I mean, just the very fact that we have something called comfort food ought to be a bit of a, an indicator that, we may have a relationship to food that I think we should have a wonderful relationship to food. But you're right. At some point,
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate this notion of what am I doing that's affecting my body,
Right,
whether I'm in real time appreciating that effect or not. It's happening
right.
to my body, and it does seem as though body work is a doorway into appreciating
Yes,
what I've done to my body.
right. I mean, there's so many things that body work can do. I mean, releasing tension, of course, is a big part of it, and also boosting your immune system. You know, releasing tension and stress, and just making you be more in touch with your body. Um, and again, if you can't afford body work, or if it's, you know, for whatever reason, there's still other things you can do. You can do yoga. You can do qigong. There's classes online. Tai chi. It doesn't have to be yoga, but just finding a way to get more in touch with yourself, and it's just being, you know, loving and kind to yourself when you do that, instead of reaching for, you know, a big dessert or something. Maybe go out for a walk,
Hmm. Hmm.
or you know, just do something to change your energy rather than stuffing your face with something.
Yeah, that's a different kind of body practice, right?
Wine, I like some desserts, but again, everything in balance, you know. It's not something you do every day, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I do think what I'm hearing in our conversation here is starting to be mindful of how I'm behaving and how that's affecting my body.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I certainly don't want to project that that's something lots of people. I know that's been an issue for me, is that I'm not recognizing until later when my body starts to protest in some way
Right.
that I've done something back here
Yeah.
that is creating an issue in the tissue, if you will.
Right.
And I'm not sensitive enough to that early on, and so then later, my body protests in some way.
Right.
And I think this is a really important element of our conversation: is how can I be more mindful in real time decision making, not only just to the thing I'm doing, but to how it's going to affect my body.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I really appreciate about our conversation here is when I do experience something that's difficult, my body is right here, right now, available to help me work that through.
Yes. and to be kind to yourself, and not get down on yourself if you make a mistake or you do something that you regret. To just notice it, but don't beat yourself up for it either. And then there's always another day to start over, or what do they say in AA? One day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But to take that time to notice, like if you're reaching for something that's not so healthy, or doing some activity that's not so healthy, to just be mindful about it. I massage a lot of people that fall off a ladder, and I say to them, what are you doing on a ladder? You're 75 years old or something. Could you ask for help? Or couldn't you have done that differently or something? A lot of people injure themselves in ways that if they were just a little more mindful, or they would ask for help, or maybe wait a day or something, they wouldn't injure themselves either. So again, just being mindful in what we're doing. It can enter into all phases of our lives.
Yes.
And as we age, I think we have to be even more mindful about what we're doing, what we're putting in our body, how we're moving our body, how we're using our body. And I want to age gracefully, and I feel like everything I do today will hopefully give me credit towards that. And that's what I do in my workshops. I teach people how to. One of them is called Relax and Restore Your Life Rhythm, and it's about finding balance, in your daily life, and ways that you can do that, and hopefully take things home with you and keep it going.
Yeah. Susan, what's one nugget from that seminar, an appetizer from that you could share with us?
Well, I tell people, if they take nothing else home with them, learn how to breathe deeply. And we spend a lot of time with breathing. And I know that you talked about that in this course of Calm. Breathing is one of the best things people can do that's free. It's right there. It's available anytime you want to take some deep breaths. Before you do something that you're going to regret, take a moment and take a few deep breaths, and tune into yourself, because the breath brings you into the present moment, and you're in your body, and you're more likely to make a better decision if you're breathing deep and you're connected. You got your connection there. And I just say to people, it's free, it's available anytime. And I teach different breathing techniques, but just taking a deep breath, you can do that in a traffic jam. You can, before a meeting, as you guys talked about. And it just really, it's just it's a magical kind of thing that we need to breathe, and most people breathe very shallowly and unconsciously, and so I teach people how to breathe, and I say, if that's the only piece you take home and continue to do, is better deep breathing, that's huge. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, Susan, this has been fantastic. Would you maybe if sort of like I asked Nick to do in week 3, if we were in a class right now, or you were walking us through yoga, and we were coming to the end of that time, and you were going to leave us with a blessing, or a mantra, or a prayer, or whatever you might do at the end, would you be willing to lead us through that right now?
Yeah, I have a little moving prayer mantra that I'd like to do. So,
Fantastic.
okay, take your hands to your heart. Press into your heart and your sternum, your heart chakra. Take a deep breath. With praying hands, we face the day feeling love and joy in our hearts. You can do this with me. We stretch out our hands and let the sun's radiance fill me with light. I bow before the earth and give thanks for this day, my life, and all that is good. Namaste.
Namaste. Susan, thank you so much.
Thank you. That
Yeah.
was Be kind to yourself and take some deep breaths.
There you go. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Bye-bye.